These are the Peter Storm Ormskirk boots that you can pick up in the high street from Millets or Blacks for around £40 at the moment. Now, not everyone can afford high-end boots. Perhaps you don't get out on the hills enough to really justify that sort of investment. But you can get a pair of decent walking boots from the high street without too much money. So these boots here, they waterproof lined. They are very comfy inside. Things to look for is check that it's got good stitching around the side of any high street boots, and check the soles as well. These are fairly good soles, and some high-end boots you'll find some of the soles actually wrap around the toe and around the heel. The other thing to check with high street boots is the stitching. Make sure that that looks a fairly good quality, and also check where the sole of the boot fits. We don't want the sole detaching from around the bottom of the boot. Now, there has been some reports of these boots letting in water. They are waterproof coated. They got the Peter Storm Tritech coating on. But we're going to give these boots a bit of a test, which is why I've got this bucket of water here. Now, inside the boot, we've placed some kitchen paper towel, so that's really absorbent, and that should show if any water gets into these boots. Now, one of the places they can, of course, get in is around the sole. So we're going to dip that in the water first to see if it lets in any water. Right in there, and the back as well. Squash it down into the water. This would be someone keeping their foot in a puddle for quite some time. And just having a feel inside. And there's no water yet. They're nice and dry. You can see where it's all wet around the side of the boot. But no water has come in there. So next we're going to check around this stitching here. Now, of course, this material here does feel fairly waterproof. But we want to give it a good soak in to see whether it is actually waterproof. So now we're dunking the boot quite a way into the water. Okay, so someone's standing in a much deeper puddle this time. And I can't feel any water coming in there at all. Shake, so there. Now you can just about make out the water line around here. So we've gone right above the stitching there. And no water on the inside, right around the stitching on that side too. And they still feel dry inside. So the stitching and the waterproofing is working at that level. So we're now going to give them a bit of a further test into the water. Now, one area that they could let in water is along this tongue. It's got a breathable mesh, so that lets a lot of sort of heat out if your foot gets hot, but of course could let water in. Now, if you're wearing waterproof trousers and the rain's coming down, of course it's going to run down into your tongue, your foot. Now, the solution there, of course, is to wear a pair of gaiters, and we've got a video on wearing gaiters. But we're going to test this now and give the boot a really good dunking in the water. So there we go, squash it right down. This is the toes right over the tongue now. That's someone with their foot quite a way into the water. And bring that out. And you can see that everything's very, very wet here. The laces are all wet. The tongue's wet, but it still feels very dry on the inside of the boot. So you can see this is very, very sodden, this boot here. Let's try on the heel now. We're going to push the heel quite a way in. You see, this would be someone standing in a stream or something for a prolonged period of time. Obviously, you wouldn't really want to be standing in your boots in water like this. Now, it is starting to feel cold in there from the cold water in the bucket. Let's bring it out. And it still feels dry inside. You can see it's all pretty soaking wet on the outside of the boot. You can see where the water right up to the edge of the top of the boot there, so I gave it a really good soaking in the water. These are very, very wet. It's all wet all around the sides, but it's still feeling dry inside. So I think that's looking fairly good. Okay, let's see what this paper's like. Let's bring this out. Slightly damp hands now, but let's bring this paper out. And that's dry. And the other one out. That's dry too. Bring another one out. That's dry. Right down from the toes. And that's dry too. Completely dry. So, any more? So these boots are, well, they are seemingly waterproof. So I think next job is take them on the hills and see what they're like for real. So there we are, some Highstreet boots. We gave them a good dunking and they stayed dry, and we took them on the hills and they were perfectly fine. So if you're just getting out with the kids every now and then on the hills, go find yourself a pair of boots and get hiking.